Okay, I've uncovered an issue with the way most of us attach parachute posts with synthetic posts. And I'll show you what I mean. This is the way I've always attached a synthetic post. I post the thread at about the 30% mark. I'll take a good long piece of post material. I'll just tie this whole thing in. I'll get it started by attaching right on top of the hook with a couple of turns, tighten them up real well. Then I'll take, these are almost X wraps, kind of pinching the post, if you will. Take 2 or 3 of those, then go around the post this way, and then do a couple of more to lock it in, just around the shank. And then I'll go ahead and take about 20 turns or so up. Like a nice high post that I can do something with. And then back down. And I'll just do a couple more securing wraps. And this seemed fine to me. But a couple of times out on the stream, this happened. Look at that. That's just unacceptable. Now, when I was out on the stream, I could actually take the whole thing, move it back up like so, and still fish the fly. So it wasn't the end of the world, and I lived with it. And it's only happened to me maybe 2 or 3 times in a number of years, usually after I've caught a fish. But it's always bugged me. So I thought, well, there has to be a better way of doing this. And it turns out there really isn't. I'll demonstrate with some other methods from some other tires. This is Charlie Craven's method. I'll do my best with it. This may not be exact. It's a little difficult for me to tell a couple of things from his video, but this was the first thing I tried was effectively this same method to try to solve this problem. And what Charlie does is he ties spinner wings like so. A couple of turns each direction. And then he really firms it up with a couple of more turns and then a turn in front. And then he sort of gets his post going with some horizontal wraps like so. Then he takes a hackle and ties it in with the good side or the top of the hackle, however you want to look at it, facing him, because he likes to angle his flues up. And then he wraps a post. And while he doesn't actually finish on the post. He effectively ties off on the post just as I do. He does his whip finish though on the just behind the eye. But this is basically his technique. And just like my technique, you get this. It's not quite as bad. It's less prone than my way, but still not great. Now, there are some solutions here, and I'll go over them. I want to talk about one more tire, and then we'll look at some fixes. This next method is from Barry Ord Clark. And you know, when I talk the likes of Charlie Craven and Barry Ord Clark, we're talking arguably some of the best tires in the world. And you'll get no argument here. I'm not trying to pick on these methods at all. I'm just trying to point out something I've kind of discovered over time. And Barry Ord Clark, with his method, touches on the ultimate solution. If you want to use these methods that don't go back, don't tie materials down the shank at all. In other words, that keep the shank very clean. And here's his initial method, and then I'll show you what he does later that sort of solves the problem. He comes up underneath the hook like so, with the thread posted behind, and then takes a couple of turns this way, and then a couple the other. Tightens up. And then he does a couple of more just to really lock it in. Then he finishes his post. And obviously, the higher you make your post, the more turns of hackle you can get. At this point, he reorients everything. Like so. And now here is what he does that I think is the key to making any of these methods work. He puts some head cement here. And that makes a considerable difference. Take it back. Now, I haven't really given this enough chance to dry, but it's better. It resists better with that cement on it. There's a better solution than that. And unhappily, it's crazy glue. Now, I don't like crazy glue for a number of reasons. I invariably glue my fingers together, number one. Number two, I tend to get it everywhere. I get it on materials. Even when I just put it on the thread, I'll get it places I don't want it. I'm deathly allergic to it. I can't be in a room with it. That said, it's the best solution other than tying these posts in the way we used to tie deer hair posts in. And I'll show you both solutions here in just a sec. All right, we'll start by throwing a little bit of crazy glue. I'm just going to use my method here, and we'll crazy glue it if I can figure out how to make this stuff work. This is some slow drying gel. I'll put another little dab right there. From here on, I'm just going to glue up the thread. Try to get back down before it dries. Now check it out. The other nice thing about this is the post gets stiffened. Making it very easy to tie in the hackle. Now I could have done this Charlie Craven style, and tied this in the first place, tied this hackle in the first place. I'll wind this with the flues going down, which is the opposite of the way Charlie Craven likes to do it. He likes to angle the flues up, and he has his reasons. And one of his arguments is that if you do it his way, the flues don't get trapped as you wind, but they don't get trapped when I do it what I consider to be normally. Regardless of how you do it, study the great Tyers, the Charlie Cravens, A.K. Best, Renee Harrop, the list goes on and on. Hans Velleman, just a few of my many favorites. You can learn so much. On an actual fly, I would have dubbed the Thorax before winding the Hackle. I didn't in this case. And I think the best way to finalize this whole video is to do an entire parachute. And I will do that. But beforehand, I want to show you one other method. It's a very old-fashioned method that we always used in the past that also solves this problem. This is the old way of tying in a post that works beautifully with no glue. I do like not having to reach for glue. It's tied in with a few wraps. Then either stagger cut as I do or angle your scissors down and do one cut to get a taper. And you've got kind of a built-in taper this way, which is nice. You post it up. And go up as high as you want to go. Back down. And this is very secure, and it's because we've got all that fiber bound down the shank. As you can see, this is really not going anywhere to speak of. You know, if I really yank on it, I can move it, but right now I'm yanking about like I did earlier, and it just wants to stay upright. So this method works beautifully. The issue is if you want a really fine body, you can't get it this way, especially on a size 22. And believe me, I've tied a lot of size 22 parachutes. It's not unusual. Especially the size 22 parachute Adams for a pseudo hatch out west is a must. So let's do an entire parachute next with glue and just using my technique that I've used forever and see how we do. All right, let's tie a parachute. This is uni A-dot thread. And this will be a Quill body PMD parachute. In the general style of A.K. Best, but using a synthetic post instead of his turkey flats. This is some done Coq de Leon or whiting tailing pack, I'm not sure which. I think it's a tailing pack. A tail about shank length. Just roll it up there. Bind it down all the way to take the thread all the way to the eye. count back whatever your count is for your size of the hook to get it to the 30% spot. And now we're going to do a little dab of crazy glue. More than a little. We'll tie in our post right on the dab. Bring it up to the top. This is some slow drying stuff. And we'll pinch the post. I've already got this glue on my fingers. That's great. All right. And now we'll tie in our hackle and finish the post. So let's get that tied in first. I tie in with the underside of the hackle facing me. Your mileage may vary on that, and that's fine. And now I'm going to glue up the thread. See if I can wind this post before the glue dries. And that should be enough. Take the thread down to the tail. We'll tie our D's quills quill in. This is a PMD quill. Hackle quill stripped and dyed PMD. And we'll wind this almost all the way to the post in close touching turns, or as close as we can reasonably get them. These quills are a little uneven, a bit uneven, so it's hard to get them exactly edge to edge. That's all right. Trap it a few times, trim it. This is super fine dubbing, PMD, and I'm going to try to dub the thread finely, as finely as I reasonably can do it. Nice long piece that I can work with. And we'll we'll wind the dub thorax here. And I like a healthy thorax. Now at this point, I like to take the thread almost to the eye, but not quite. I really want to leave the eye pristine. Let me wind this back a little bit. Didn't get quite enough dubbing. When I get to the post, I go back and forth quite a bit, like so. Try to even things out. And I think we're ready to wind our hackle. This is the same size hackle as the hook. Don't want to complicate things too much. Now, here's what I do. I hold the tip down and I turn just over the body, but under the wound hackle. And I do it 3 times, like so. Then I whip finish on the post, again, underneath the wound hackle, but over the body and over this hackle tip. And in order to do that, I come up with 2 fingers underneath the thread, like so. So the thread's across the backs of my fingers. Form a loop in the thread, and then take my palm and face it upward so that my loop is going to go horizontally. And I want to keep it low. And then once I get my fingers behind the fly, I hitchhike to the left, palm down now. And now I bring that whole thing just over the eye, again, underneath the hackle, get ready to do another one. And while I'm doing this, I'm keeping the tension on the thread with my left hand. Hitchhike left, palm down, bring the whole thing around, and let's do one more. Trying not to trap any fibers. It's a little tricky, but you do it 2 or 3 times and you'll get it. And then gradually tighten the loop. Hold the hackle tip and the thread under tension. Get in there with your scissors. And my friend Dick Shaw has just made me aware of this technique. Just open them slightly and push. That will cut everything off neatly and not cut into the hackle at all. It's a really nice trick. Now, this point, I've got this big long post and I want to shorten it up. And in order to make things consistent, I'll take a measurement to the very back of the bend. Then hold it up, cut it straight across. That way, when I do a number of these, the posts will all be the same length and the flies will look similar. Now I notice I've got a couple strays here, which happens from time to time. And I'll get in there and cut them. And there's our parachute. Parachutes are a ball to fish. They're very effective, and they're fun to tie. If you run into problems with your method, as I did with mine, fix it. I plan to go with this from here on out, even though I've got to reach for the crazy glue while I'm doing them. It's much more secure now, and I feel a lot better.